And hello, everybody. This is the Now See Here podcast. I'm your host, Jack Chris. We're going to say hello to our YouTube audience too. You don't wave yet, Maximus. We haven't introduced you. Take the cue from the host. Damn it, I run the show.
You run the show.
Actually, Roddy does. We are, as you can see. Look at here. We've got the product placement. CC's Coffee House in Ridgeland, Mississippi, and Roddy Merritt is running the board now. Let's turn to the man of the half hour or 20 minutes, however we run, Mr. Maximus Wright. Maximus, good to see you again. You and I did a video cast not too long ago.
You sure did. And I really thank you I didn't think you were going to invite me back, so this is a pleasant surprise.
I'm not hearing Maximus too well. Roddy, are we good over there? Okay, there.
We're good? Okay.
Yep, now, excellent. And since we last talked, I mean, you made a name for yourself with Soul Damage, the movie and the book. Now you've got Prophet.
Right.
Tell me about Prophet before we get back to Soul Damage.
Prophet, it was, kind of like Soul Damage. It was just one of those stories that would not leave me alone, and I did want to write this book because it kind of deals with a lot of dark stuff. And, when I'm looking at the covers now, I got 2 black covers. So it's, it's indicative of like, where's this dark place this is coming from. But this is a story about a journalist who is traveling the country doing an expose on fallen preachers. And he winds up finding this one guy who was in prison for attempted murder, for manslaughter. And he claims that he's a prophet. And the young man does not believe in that type of thing and doesn't believe, that was just made up stuff to him. So for whatever reason, he felt that it was his job to disprove this guy, to prove that he was a fraud and that he was basically a manipulator. And he didn't realize that he was embarking on a story that would get him in the middle of betrayal and murder. So it's just one of those stories. It's a little roller coaster ride, but it's different. It kind of comes from a different place.
And it looks like, Maximus, I mean, it's short enough you could read it in one sitting, probably.
You can.
And, Soul Damage is really what, I guess, put you on the map. And you and I have talked about this before. I never saw the movie. I was going to go 2 or 3 times. I never did. And I guess I'll wait until it comes out on television or something. But tell us, for those who don't know, the story of Soul Damage and how you became a writer. You're a Yazoo City native. Tougaloo grad.
Yes.
So, local guy living here now in central Mississippi. Your wife's a magazine publisher. We were talking about that. So you've got a lot going on. So why in the world did you start writing books? Nobody reads anymore, supposedly, and making movies too? Give us the story.
Well, obviously you can see that we're underachievers from Yazoo City. So
yeah, not too many famous people.
Not too many famous people from Yazoo. But it was when we were making the film, we ran out of money. And the cast, we had to cut out so much in a script. A script is basically 130 pages. You're going to keep it 130 pages. My original script was like 180. It was like 180 pages. So some of the cast members were saying like, yo, this would be a great book. Like you really should expand on and put some of these scenes back in and make it into a book. And I was all against it, because I didn't think I was a writer. I didn't think that. But then it came to the point they would say, well, okay, if you sell the books, you might get raise some money.
And that did it?
And that did it.
What was the biggest difference or challenge for you from writing a script versus writing a manuscript or a novel?
Well, I think the biggest challenge was just believing that I could do it.
Really?
I really do. I think that was the biggest thing. And I had to identify that having good grammar and being able to tell good stories are 2 different things. You hire people
to edit.
But the story has to originate and come from you, which interestingly has morphed into now that I'm a writing coach. And literally when I started on this book in January, I took 9 people with me to write their book. 6 of them published next month.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we need to get them on too because, it's anybody, well, I was going to say anybody can do it. It takes a special type of person, but yeah, you do need the editor.
You do. And I think what you have to realize is, what am I good at? Am I good at telling stories? If I'm good at telling stories, then let me tell the story and let me hire the people to do the things that I'm not good at.
And the story of Soul Damage is also a little bit dark.
It is.
You told me it was, you refreshed my memory, and I recall, but about a young man who was sexually abused.
Sexually abused by a woman.
And in a church setting, was it not? Or it had to do with him leaving the church?
Yeah, he left the church because of an explicit relationship with his mother and a pastor, and they got kicked out. Subsequently after that, he became abused by someone.
And what was the reaction to the book, to the movie? Were they different? And frankly, from a business side, did you make your money back? Are you making a profit?
Well, from the books, yes. You know,
Okay.
we still have to sell the film. You know, so we're still waiting. But
You're still working on that.
Yeah. So we've acquired a sales agent since we did the screenings here, which is a good thing. So now we're about to go on the film festival circuit and kind of build the name of the project, so we can, once we go, you know, we have a better chance of getting a better price when we try to sell it.
Was it difficult for you to find, I guess, the equivalent of a literary agent or somebody? Because I've been told they're very hard to find, and that if you do find somebody, you've got to make sure they're good, and you also have to watch how much they cut, or what their cut is, because they can, you know, it could be highway robbery.
Okay, I'm gonna finish the answer about the reaction has been the same with the movie and the book.
In the book, yeah.
People were pleasantly surprised that we had great actors that brought these characters to life. Yeah, they brought these. That's the part. They brought these characters to life.
You two people, I was saying, don't bang the table.
Yeah.
Watch the table because it'll pick up. And that's the great thing about doing live podcasts. You have to watch all moving parts.
But as far as profit, you know, the book has done well. We finding the correct agent. We went to CAA, and CAA is the big boys.
Yes.
You know, we were able to get a meeting with them, and they loved the project, but the project wasn't finished at that time. And they considered, but they said we didn't have enough name recognition, so they kind of referred us down to their AAA team. So that kind of made it easier for us to get a sales agent, because CAA said, "Hey, we think they have something," you know.
Let me ask you this question, and it's something I always ask various artists. We all get negative and bad reviews, and I'm sure you've gotten some, okay? Whether legitimate or not. How do you take those? Do you take them constructively? Are you defensive about them? Or how do you handle the negative criticism? Then I'm going to turn the question around. Do you let the positive stuff pump you up a little bit too much, or does it you know, encourage you?
You know, everyone has that initial shock, either way. But
Yeah.
I'm always reminded of the poem by Rudyard Kipling, and in that poem, it says, "When you can meet success and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same." That's how I kind of take it, you know, because it's an opinion, and it's good. When it's a good opinion, you take it, but you got to realize you still got to grind it out. And when it's a bad one, you go through the process. Is it legitimate? Does it make sense? You know, and then you just. And if it's good, if it's really true, then it really helps you. It helps you in the end.
And I don't know if you're like me when I write, but sometimes I just have to stop, because I can rewrite it so many times and go over it so many times, and it's no longer editing. It's almost become perfectionism, and you don't get anything done.
I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I say recovering.
Tell me how.
Well, recovering. I've also found out that being a perfectionist is, what I read, is the worst form of self-hatred. It is, because one, you never can be perfect, so you punish yourself by keep doing it. So you on this in this loop, and you know, and mine used to be red hot, you know, be fire hot, you know, if I did something like even this book right here, I know there are mistakes in this book, and what I've had to do is I've had to settle with those mistakes are there for me for character purposes. So it's just something I've had to work out in my head.
But it's good to do that too, because I go back and listen to these podcasts, and sometimes I get embarrassed. I wince. Yes. I say, "Oh man, you know, that I didn't make the proper transition, or I didn't sound right, or I missed an obvious question." I think it's good that we go back and not obsess over it, but I think as writers.
But I think you're at a perfect time and space at this point to do this, because in the time when you started doing radio, it was all about perfection. If you wasn't perfect, then people would not. But now people are looking for flawed individuals. They're looking for people who are authentic.
Well, to me, it's spontaneous.
Yeah,
and even you know, when we were this interview is not me, but even when we did talk radio, we tried to keep it as authentic, and we didn't edit and that kind of thing. Now, the last time we talked, I remember you also had in the works a Western.
Yes.
Is that still in the works?
That's still in the works. We're looking to do this towards the end of the year. I've taken a break from filming, you know, probably since March, you know, just to try to, you know, step away from it, because it requires so much focus, and you have to be so obsessed and to kind of birth something like that. So, but I'm planning on still shooting this Western at the end of the year.
Now, for people like me who I had my chance and I missed Soul Damage and I regret it, and I'm sorry about that. But how can we see Soul Damage? Are there ways we can purchase the DVD or go online, or how can we watch it?
Of course, you can still see it. We can set up something privately so you can see it. But
hey, folks, when you're a celebrity, I didn't want to brag.
Didn't want to flex on them, right?
Yeah, I could, but for the normal little guy.
Well, right now we are having little private screenings for fundraising so we can take care of the sales costs, the sales agent,
sure,
travel and stuff like that. So we are going to have small pockets that are local, but they'll be more private.
When you do those, let me be the guy in the back going, yeah, or right. Really start crying during the emotional parts and, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. We're talking to Maximus Wright. Maximus, tell us about your background. You grew up in Yazoo City. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your life story.
I grew up single parent home. Mom, she worked. She was literally my hero. She worked 2 and 3 jobs, and did whatever she had to do to get it done. But she instilled principles in me, that shaped my life today. Made me learn one poem my whole life. She said, once a task has been begun, never leave it until it's done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. My kids hate it because I literally live by that. Yeah. And, I'm like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And if we're not, we're just not going to. If I know I'm not, we're just not going to touch it.
Is your mother still with us?
Yes. Well, I was with her this morning.
Well, what does she think of?
She absolutely hates the book. She hates the book. Not
both
because,
books?
No, she loves Soul Damage, but she has some problems with Soul Damage because it has profanity in it, and this one is a little even more explicit. So that's the reason she hates it. But it's considered one of my best writes so far. So, but that's her problem. She's good old church mother, and she's like, "Why you got to have these words?" I'm like, "Mama, these are the characters.
This is it.
These are the characters. This is not necessarily how I express myself, but the characters are authentic into who they are and what they do."
Have you heard from people all over the country, or is it your success been mainly regional? How?
We've gotten some response a little from everywhere. By far, no, it hadn't been a breakout, nationwide, but regionally we've had a lot of great success, and in different specs across the country, people are finding out about it. Matter of fact, with this book here, I just got a review from an 80-year-old woman who was talking about, this was the best book that you've written, and I've read all 3, and she said, now I'm sending it to my cousin in New Jersey. So it's slow. Our work is slowly starting to get traction, by word of mouth.
The other point in Soul Damage, and you and I talked about this, I want to go into it again because interestingly enough, this fits in with a show I'm going to be doing next week with some gentleman Roddy introduced me to today, and that is sexual abuse, sexual trafficking. We're hearing more and more about that now. I mean, look at this Epstein guy in New York. How sick is that? And a millionaire doing that kind of thing.
I think it was a billionaire, wasn't
it? Billionaire doing this kind of thing to 14-year-old girls and being involved in it himself. And Soul Damage is about a male who was sexually abused. And you remember the movie years ago, Disclosure? Michael Douglas and Demi Moore. She becomes his boss and sexually abuses him, and it wins the case. Anyway,
right.
But it does happen to men, and it does happen to young men, and it's not just a Catholic Church problem. It's a problem everywhere. You told me you've actually, men have come to you and said thank you, or
men have come to me and cried and said, this is me. And I'm talking about from the ages of 17 to 62. Guys have come, and I think what we don't realize is that I spoke to a trauma conference once, and it was like 600 therapists. And I started out and I said, if I say the word predator and the first thing that comes to your mind is a man, we got a problem.
Well, it
did. It did. But I'm saying you are the therapist. You're the people on the front line. So my thing was, it had to start somewhere. I'm not saying men haven't. But when we go back and we look at the pathology of all of this, it typically happened to them as kids, and somebody had to do it. You're hearing more and more people talking about, coming out saying this has happened to me, and they have all these drugs and drug addictions or alcoholism and all these type of things. And this is not a new thing. We just haven't been talking about it.
Well, we're doing a program next week on sex trafficking. Some guys here in Mississippi are doing some things, and the stories are just heart-wrenching. But my point is, that was kind of a secondary consequence of Soul Damage. That apparently you helped some men. Didn't you tell me that even some gentlemen told you they were seeking therapy?
Yes.
Honestly,
yes,
for the first
yes.
time, they were going
Right.
to address the problem.
Right. Because some of these guys, they've shared stories such as, I couldn't allow my kids to sit in my lap. As a father, that's not even something that you think about. But when this has happened to you, you don't feel comfortable with your children.
Yeah.
And and who do you tell this to? We have to start creating safe places if we want our families to heal. And on the other side, I've heard stories of gentlemen who, they were at camp and, they had been molested by someone and they were able to go to their father and their father walked them through it. And now they're happily married with kids and all this stuff. So there are some success stories out there.
How does Maximus Wright write? What is your schedule? When you decide on a book, is there a certain time of day? Do you have to be in a certain kind of mood? Do you type every day or write every day?
I think, like I said, I'm coaching now. That's become an interesting passion. We're starting our second class, and that's normally the first question people ask, like, what is my writing schedule? And what I do is let's find out how you naturally write first. Let's find out where, for the first month or so, I'm just observing, like, when do you feel the urges to write? Because everyone has a natural rhythm. And my job is to try to help find your natural rhythm. And also, do you write better in the bathroom?
Do you write better in the bathroom?
Do you write better? I know that sounds
crazy.
crazy.
I have never tried that in my life.
I know that's crazy.
Usually I'm preoccupied.
Right. But some people, but think about it. If you take your cell phone in there, you're in there another 30 minutes.
Yeah, but that's attached to everybody.
But this is what I've been suggesting to some people. I said, keep a writing pad in the bathroom. Some people, that 5 minutes. Stop thinking we have to write an hour, and let's start thinking about 5-10 minutes. One lady asked me, so do you have a cabin out in the woods somewhere where you go in? And you just, no electronics at all? I said, no, I write when I'm waiting in the doctor's office or when I'm waiting for the oil to be changed.
That's good advice.
So we find these little pockets, and before you know it, you got a book.
Well, to me, you could write a how-to book and call it Writing in the John.
Right. Writing in the John, exactly.
Writing in the John. What is going to be next for Soul Damage? I mean, you're waiting for the financing. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to happen? What do you want to happen with this film? Obviously, I guess you want it, out at... what is it? Telluride or no, not Telluride.
Sundance.
Yeah, Sundance in Colorado. Yeah,
Interestingly enough, we have submitted to the Austin Film Festival, so we believe that we're going to get picked up there, and there are a couple ones in Denver. Good. And there are a couple in LA and different places across the country. So I think what's going to happen is that we're going to do this circuit for a minute, and I think this film is going to get sold. But what I want to do is I want to be able to make sure that we spur conversation, whether it's on the collegiate level or wherever.
The curse of the Mississippi writer is that they're from Mississippi. It could be a blessing, could be a curse. But when you say you're from Mississippi, people think of Faulkner or they think, do you consider yourself a Southern writer, a Mississippi writer, or you write for everyone? I mean, I know you write for everyone, but do you consider yourself a Mississippi writer?
I think if I had to summarize it, because I have people, obviously, that's 80 that read my books, and they're younger people. And I think I write universal thought in Southern culture.
Or do you use Southern, because I haven't read the book yet. I've got it. I've got about 8. Don't be offended by that.
I'm not offended by that.
But is it in Southern, like dialect, Southern terms, and Southern expressions?
No. I always place the books in the South.
So it's the cultural.
It's always there. Yeah. But the language and the thought, I'm deliberate that is not typically what we consider Southern or what the world considers Southern. It's what we consider Southern.
I mean, I have so much trouble trying to get through Faulkner. Yeah. I tried 4 or 5 months ago to read Sound and the Fury again, and it's just, it was tough. But are people, I guess, obviously they are, people are still reading. Even in this day and age of the phone and social media, they're still picking up books and physically reading them.
Because people still need imagination.
Yeah,
and
especially,
creativity.
I was going to say especially now.
Right.
Because don't you think we're losing a little bit of that?
Well, 1,500 CEOs said this recently in a poll that the greatest aspect they're looking from anyone now is creativity, not education, creativity.
But a techie would tell you, I can be just as creative behind a computer screen.
Yeah, that's what
you don't believe it?
I'm not saying there are not those rare individuals out there, but you're still dealing with a human issue. So it doesn't matter how great your product is. If you cannot connect to people, then you're still not going to be successful.
Now, who has been the main, well, you said 80-year-old women, you've got young people, but has there been a particular audience that has really gravitated to your book?
Not yet. It's because it's so fresh. We just released it.
When did this come out? I don't think I've been asking you.
Actually, we just released this book. So this is, matter of fact, this is the first run. I have to actually send the second run because we missed some stuff. The editor missed some stuff in this one. So I haven't even really released this. But
so, do I get to keep this?
Yeah, of course.
See, another perk. I get to go to a showing and write a good review of Prophet.
Just don't hold it against me because there's some mistakes in there.
No, I won't bring anything. Yeah. Hey, there are mistakes in this podcast. But, it's great to see we've got a local writer doing what he's doing here. Who do you read for pleasure or enjoyment? Who's your
believe
favorite?
it or not, I don't read a lot of nonfiction. But
That's
the book that I'm reading now is Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil.
Now, he wrote How to
Think and Grow Rich. But
Yeah.
this is a book that he wrote called Outwitting the Devil, where he really kind of talks about his more spiritual side of, going through that process of writing the book.
Your books are available where? How can people
Amazon,
purchase?
definitely Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. You can go online. They're in those places.
And you said that you are considering doing a podcast someday.
I've thought about it. One of the things that I've been thinking about is being over 40, dreaming again, soaring over 40. That's what I call it. That second half of your life, like how do you really live your dreams again? The kids are starting to leave the house. You're more mature, but do you think you're too old? Whatever, but you can still have a great life. And you can do it.
Man, look, in 2 weeks I'll be 54. My daughter turned 18 2 weeks ago. It's tough.
Yes, but it's doable.
Tough. Well, this podcast is my midlife crisis, as Roddy pointed out. And it in a way it is, because I can't afford a Ferrari.
I think if you use the fuel right, then it's a good thing. Instead of midlife crisis, it could be a midlife saving.
These days, who knows how long you're going to live? You could live to be 100, or you could pass away tomorrow.
Exactly.
So you've got to use every day.
So you might as well be happy.
And age really is a number. I mean, you realize you're kind of on the downward slope, but as long as your doctor tells you, hey, you're looking good, you might as well,
absolutely
do the work you can, like the work you're doing. So Prophet, Soul Damage. So many things going on right now, Maximus, and we're glad to have you back on, and our YouTube audience. And I'm sorry I made you stop banging the table.
Oh, well, look, we don't want to mess up the audio.
Well, these are sensitive mics, and we do everything first take. But it's great having you back on the show.
Thank you so much.
And do let me know about I put you on the spot the last time you and I talked. I'm going to do it again. So YouTube will know, and the podcast audience. Next time you have one of those private screenings, especially if you've got free food and drinks,
let you know.
I'll be there.
I got you.
Unless it's BYOB.
All right.
And I think Roddy has to come along too. He's our technician. Folks, it's Mr. Maximus Wright. The book is Soul Damage. Prophet, we got to wait for the new editions to come out. Right. This is a collector's item.
It is.
Then I guess. And it's a pleasure, man. Good luck with the new book. Good luck with Soul Damage, and keep doing what you're doing. And tell us, I guess next time you come on, tell us about, or you can tell us right now, if people want to get in your writing class.
Absolutely.
Are there spots open?
Yeah, there are spots open. It's tailored coaching. It's one-on-one. We have a community on Facebook, but it's tailored coaching. So if you don't have to know what you want to write. That's part of it. I'm from concept to actually holding this in your hand in 6 months.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And there's a fee involved.
Of course, there's a fee.
Well, maybe we should start charging people for this podcast.
Right.
I'm begging them to contribute, and I'm not getting anything. So we'll make it another way. Maximus, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Jack Chris. This is the Now See Here podcast. Thanks to Roddy Merritt running the show, and thanks to CC's Coffee House and SettleMyCase.com for hosting us. Again, I'm Jack Chris. Thanks so much.